from 2nd Street Mathematics, and this is going to be our first official video of the channel with plenty more to come. So if you're in the middle of your second semester of geometry, or you would just like to refresh on this topic, please keep on watching. So we're going to start by recalling our lesson on Pythagorean Theorem, where we're given the formula a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So if we're looking at a right triangle, we know that we have leg A and leg B, and then we're using that to find our hypotenuse C. And all this formula is saying is that the sum of the square of my sides are going to be equal to the square of that hypotenuse. So let's just do a quick example, which we all know. If I take A to be 3 and B to be 4, but we already know that my legs are interchangeable, so A in this case could be 4, B could be 3. We're going to use this to find our hypotenuse C. So plugging directly into the formula, this says that 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to C squared. 3 times 3 gives us 9, plus 16 is equal to C squared. Combining those two terms to get us 25 is equal to C squared. We know that to get rid of my square term here, I'm going to take the square root on both sides. Therefore, 5 is equal to C. And this is a commonly well-known triangle used for Pythagorean theorem, a 3, 4, 5 triangle. Okay, so we've been studying so far the relationship just between our sides, but what about the interior information of our angles? Recall that the interior angles of a triangle adds up to 180 degrees, right? We already know that this little box in the corner is telling us this is a 90-degree angle. So let's get some more information about the interior angles, thus leading to the relationship between sides and angles, which is the study of trigonometry itself. Okay. This is most notably associated with the acronym SOHCAHTOA, but before we get into that, we have to label first. So, going back to what we know from Pythagorean theorem, I can already label what's across from my 90-degree angle. We know this as our hypotenuse. And if we have angles A, B, and C, let's label our remaining two sides. So if I let A to be my angle in reference, otherwise known as my reference angle, A is my reference angle, directly across from the side is known as the opposite. So the opposite side is across from my reference angle. And then what's notably right next to this is going to be called my adjacent side. The adjacent side is right next to our reference angle. Therefore, we can get our sine, cosine, and tangent of our reference angle. So the sine of A is going to be the opposite over the hypotenuse. But what's the opposite side, you ask? This is just going to be side length BC. So BC is my opposite, and the hypotenuse, we know that to be AC. So let's look at the cosine of angle A. The cosine of A is going to be known as the adjacent over the hypotenuse. The adjacent, if we're looking back at my right triangle here, the adjacent side is going to be AB, whereas the hypotenuse stays the same because this is still directly across from my 90-degree angle. So we have that the cosine of A is going to be the adjacent, which is side length AB, over the hypotenuse, which is still AC. And then lastly, let's do the tangent of angle A. The tangent of angle A is going to be the opposite over the adjacent. We know that the opposite side is going to be BC, and the adjacent side is going to be AB. So the tangent of angle A is going to be BC over the adjacent, AB. So in our next video, we're actually going to put some numbers to this and see more in detail how we can go about solving using our trig functions. A bit of homework before we get into our next video. What if we let B be our reference? What if we let C be our reference angle in this case? We know that the hypotenuse would stay the same, but then directly across from my new reference angle, this becomes the opposite. The hypotenuse stays the same, and this becomes my adjacent. So, a bit of homework. Go ahead and figure out the sine of angle C, the cosine of angle C, and the tangent of angle C. I'll see you guys in our next video.